Greetings everyone! Welcome to my review of Archie Sonic the Hedgehog issue 4. Today we're doing something a little different. While the format is the same as the past few issues, 2 large stories with a few 1 to 2 pages in between, I will switch the order of the 2 larger stories. There is a reason for this. Let's get into it, shall we? What would be considered story number 2 features Tails in his first starring role. Sonic is resting after the events of the first story, and Tails decides to keep an eye on things. Nearby, Robotnik has gathered his Badnik forces in preparation for his grand return. Again, this refers to what happened in the first story. The gathering, by the way, is in the form of a company picnic. Good on Robotnik for keeping the morale of his death machines high. Once it's over, he sends them throughout the land to wreak havoc. Orbinaut and Buzz Bomber spot Tails from above and move in to attack. Buzz Bomber holds him in place, while Orbinaut launches his spike balls. Tails is able to whack the balls back at Orbinaut with his, tails, and then uses said tails to knock Buzz Bomber to the ground. Emboldened by this victory, Tails decides to take out the head honcho himself. This'll go well. As he heads into Robotnik's office, we learn another aspect of the SWAT bots. They are very good at shadow puppets. This time, there's nothing Tails can do as the SWAT bots take him to the nearby robot maker. Luckily for him, Sonic's finished his nap and arrives on the scene. He followed Tails to Robotropolis, if you're wondering. Rather than letting Sonic destroy them, the SWAT bots activate their self-destruct mechanism in the hopes that they can take the 2 with them. Sorry, SWAT bots. Sonic and Tails escape before the boom. But good effort there. The story ends with Tails learning that he should look before he leaps, just as he's approaching a hole with his eyes closed. Better have those tails on standby, buddy. I'll go ahead and quickly sum up the short 1-page stories before heading into the first story. Here they are in the same order as presented in the comic. The first one features Antoine giving a soliloquy about vanity until Sally tells him to get back to work assembling her vanity. For those who don't know, vanity in this context is a dressing table used to apply makeup, preen, and coil hair. Nice wordplay here. Plus, I sympathize with Antoine here. I had to build a lot of shelves and desks, and one wrong move can be disastrous, especially if the instructions are gibberish. The second story features the return of those interdimensional individuals, Horizontal and Vertical. It's basically a small peek into what they do in their dimension, namely, play a bizarre form of baseball. It's nice to see these 2 play with each other peacefully. I hope nothing happens that'll affect them or their home. The third story has Scratch, Grounder, and Coconuts threaten revenge against Sonic while waiting in line for a villain audition, which has some familiar individuals. You know, good on them for trying to expand their resume. You know, if things with Robotnik don't work out, maybe a career change is in order, perhaps a job in a casino or something. The final 1-page story has Bunny establishing her hair salon. She's fulfilling that dream of being Sally's hairdresser mentioned last time. Her method is unique. She steps her robotic foot on a puddle of water, which produces enough electric current that it frizzes Sally's hair. And Sally likes it. Okay, next time you decide to style Sally's hair, Bunny, might want to try something traditional. Alright, on with the main event. Robotnik SWAT bots arrive at his base with a captured animal. He wants to throw this creature into the roboticizer and send it after Sonic. Robotnik was hoping for something massive like a rhino or an elephant, but instead, the SWAT bots captured a tiny salamander. Robotnik has Crabmeat take the SWAT bots to be punished. He's still gonna roboticize the creature. Perhaps he can use it as a scout or something. Robotnik orders Buzz Bomber to turn on the AC, but the Badnik accidentally hit the size control on the roboticizer. The overload causes the Salamander to transform into the gigantic and powerful Universe Salamander. Unfortunately for Robotnik, he cannot control it. The Freedom Fighters monitor the Universe Salamander's movements in the Great Forest, and Sonic heads up to face it, after seeing Robotnik fleeing for his life. Sonic attempts to spin dash into it, only to wind up in its mouth. This looks like the end of Sonic, but the Hedgehog refuses to become someone's lunch. He, forces the Universe Salamander to puke him out. Sorry about that. Sonic needs to bring out the big guns to deal with this robot, so he heads to an area where he stashed 7 Chaos Emeralds and 50 rings. The rings will be used to enter a nearby star post so we can gather 50 more rings. Yeah, it's a bit convoluted. I'll talk more about it later. After successfully gathering 50 more rings in this special zone, he transforms into Supersonic. With this newfound power, he leaps through the universe Salamander and heads back to Knothole. He asks Rotor if he can borrow the reduced and large component of the roboticizer they salvaged last issue. You know, the one that partially transformed Bunny? For that matter, where is she in this story? Anyway, he uses it to shrink the universe Salamander down, and the now small robot runs away, lest he becomes a stain on Supersonic's shoe. The story ends with the still Supersonic playing a prank on Antoine. Gotta do something fun before powering down. Still, I can see why Sonic needed to take a nap during the second story. Now here's why I did the Universe Salamander story second. This is not the only appearance of the robotic lizard, and I'm not talking about the clip show issue down the line. For years, the Lizard of Odd was the only appearance of the Universe Salamander, until Archie started releasing the Sonic Archive series in the 2000s. Volume 5, released in September of 2007, contains a lost story called Everything Old is Newt Again. We're going to go ahead and cover it now because there won't be another chance to do so. Robotnik's giving a motivational rally to his badnik forces involving the death of Sonic and eagerness to take over Mobius. Only none of that stuff has happened yet. Robotnik wants ideas from his underlings, and one tiny voice speaks up. It's the still small Universe Salamander. He wants another shot at taking down Sonic and the Freedom Fighters, and Robotnik's like, alright, I guess they're letting bygones be bygones. Because he agrees to not only resize the lizard, he will give it some improvements as well. I guess either Robotnik's desperate, or the Universe Salamander's humbled by its previous defeat. We head over to the Freedom Fighters playing a game of flag football. Only this one is everyone versus Sonic, for obvious reasons. Okay, this underpants gag does not make sense because Antoine doesn't usually wear pants. Their fun is interrupted by the once again giant Universe Salamander. Not wasting any time, it kicks Sonic far away, then it prepares to feast on the Freedom Fighters. Fortunately for the team, Bunny is around this time. Not that it helps much because it's still big. Sonic winds up in an unknown desert, and a nearby ant tells him to run around in a continuous widening circle until he reaches familiar land markings. Back to the Universe Salamander fight, Rotor is going to use the same trick to defeat it like last time. Reduce it using the Reduce and Large component. This time though, shooting the Reduce ray makes it grow bigger. That's the modification Robotnik made. Any shrink ray fired on the Universe Salamander will make it grow bigger. Robotnik's so happy, he's already planning a victory party. Universe Salamander kicks the Freedom Fighters a bit before Sonic returns. Rotor has figured out that the enlarging ray will shrink him, but the device was damaged. Sonic, Tails, and Bunny will buy time so that Sally and Rotor can repair the device. Antoine's going to stand in fear as usual. To help with repairs, Sally brings in something she just got in the mail. A new handheld computer called the Nicole 7000. Once completed, Rotor fires the new device's enlarger ray, and the Universe Salamander starts shrinking again. However, due to Robotnik's modifications and the effect of the new ray, the robot continues to shrink until it's microscopic. Sonic doesn't have a humorous quip for this, and the Nicole 7000 points out there will be more serious situations coming in the future. Sonic's all, nah, nothing's gonna change. Let's get some chili dogs. Oh, poor naive Sonic. The story ends with Robotnik's premature victory party. Or would this actually be a defeat party? Hey, you tried. The Tails story shows that he's still not as experienced in dealing with robots. Yes, he took out a couple of badniks, but he could have headed back to Sonic or the rest of the Freedom Fighters and tell them what's going on. Instead, the arrogance of youth was on display and it almost cost him. Final score for this story is a 5. It's average, and despite Tails' cockiness, I do appreciate the powers that be for giving him the spotlight. This will not be the last time Tails would get into situations where he's in over his head, but that's something for another day. The main thing I want to take away from the first Universe Salamander story is, was Supersonic even necessary? Regular Sonic, after escaping the robot's mouth, could have easily headed to Knothole to get the Reduce Enlarge Ray. Brief tangent, I assume Robotnik had the component in his roboticizers to alter his robotic slaves as he sees fit. Anyway, the real reason to show off Supersonic is, at the time, it's a recently introduced concept in the games. Supersonic doesn't do much besides being super fast and being mostly invulnerable. The form would not become the powerhouse bane of mad scientists and eldritch monsters until much later. Sonic showing off his transformation method, as I've stated earlier, is convoluted, but I see what they were trying to do. They still messed up on how it's done though. In the game, specifically 16-bit Sonic 2, you gather 50 rings and enter a special stage through a star post. You then gather a set amount of rings while trying to avoid obstacles, and if successful, you get a Chaos Emerald. Collect 50 rings after gathering all 7 allows Sonic to transform into Supersonic. Sonic in the comic already collected 7 emeralds off panel and has 50 rings next to them. He could have transformed right then and there, and not needed to enter the special stage to collect 50 more rings. I'm probably reading too much into this since this is the comic's sillier era. The thing to know about the emeralds is that there are actually more than 7, and that they're all colored green, like real emeralds. The comic will keep this detail until a much later event ensures that there are only 7 emeralds, each of a different color. Other than that, this is basically a story with Sonic overcoming a robotic weapon that was created by accident. The second story is almost a response to it. Everyone learns from the events of the last encounter, and the Freedom Fighters are more active this time, except for Antoine, and the ending is a little darker. I assume this story was written at some point during the comic shift into a darker tone because Gallagher points this out through the Nicole 7000. Ah, the Nicole 7000. This one element makes this story's placement in canon questionable. It shows an alternate way of Sally getting her hand held. But if you're familiar with Archie Sonic lore, at least in the old continuity, we'll see Nicole's true origin later on. It's too bad since I like this story more than the original. The cruder version of Dave Manic's arc I can excuse. It was a lost story if you remember. They probably did their best to get it cleaned up for the archives. My final scores for the stories. The Lizard of Odd gets a 4, and Everything Old is Newt again gets a 6. Thanks for joining me, and have a good day everyone. The one time Robotnik was at Knothole's front door, and he's fleeing from a giant monster. He had the worst luck during this period.